and welcome. We're Brian and Emily, living aboard our Allure 399 Big Bear. Thanks for joining the journey as we sail from the Eastern U.S. to Canada's Pacific coast. An estimated 10,000 nautical miles we'll sail in under 1 year. This is the fourth leg of our voyage as we sail offshore across the entire Caribbean Sea in one shot. And although I'm just learning the ropes, literally, Brian has over 30,000 miles of single-handed experience, but even that doesn't prepare us for every surprise and challenge along the way.
About the unluckiest thing I could think.
Our story picks up where it left off in Long Island, Bahamas, destination Cologne, Panama. There are alternative routing options. However, the Gulf Stream flows in the opposite direction to our direction of travel, so we elect to sail between Cuba and Haiti, otherwise known as the Windward Passage. Below Jamaica, the trade winds fill in from east to west, theoretically blowing us all the way into Panama.
Just leaving the Bahamas.
ETA.
Like 6 days.
6 days.
I find when you go offshore, sometimes the shorter jumps are almost a little harder because you don't have long enough to get into a rhythm of just kind of letting go of not worrying about when you're going to get there. If it's like a 1 or even a 2 day passage, I'm kind of, from when I leave, I'm constantly like counting down of like, when am I going to arrive? It's going to be day or night. So like the whole trip you do that. And it can almost feel longer, whereas it takes like at least 3 days just to like let go of that and just say we're just going, and whenever we get there, and I feel like it's easier to get into a rhythm quicker on a longer trip. Pretty nice window to sneak on down to Panama. So
You want to go to Panama, baby?
let's go to Panama.
So part of what comes along with doing a slightly longer offshore trip from central Bahamas all the way to Panama is trying to link two somewhat different wind systems. First part of the trip, we're going to get wind systems from up north, and then about halfway through the trip, the trade winds set up across the Caribbean Sea.
Pretty worthless through this section, but luckily we have some sonar charts that have sound-ins that other boats have confirmed, so that's what we're using. Eric Brahos, we have his cruising guide, and that should help us a lot. There's a bunch of sections here where the current can make a big difference, and some sections where you can avoid it if you know where it's flowing. So yeah, we're downloading ocean current data for the first time. It's gonna be awesome. Big upgrade.
I don't mind things not being too exciting while we're underway. That's okay.
Yeah. No, I
can
totally
go with
agree.
moderate.
Totally agree. It's a beautiful day. Charging our batteries, making some water, getting some miles in. All the getting's good. It goes to the top of the mast and then down to the top of the sail.
Being an adult beginner at anything is hard. There's a lot to learn about sailing and boat life in general. In addition to some boat basics, we review some emergency training as well, like how to use the radio, radar, and navigate the horrifying prospect of a man overboard situation, which is my biggest fear. We have life vests on board, a life raft, EPIRB trackers, and Brian always wears a harness while on deck. I think the case for most of us is that we're a lot stronger, smarter, and braver than we think we are, but it takes being challenged to access that. After several years of hospital nursing through COVID, I have some healing and restoration to do myself. At this time in my life, I know who I am, but I'm meeting the person that I am becoming. It's been a pretty mellow day out here. Maybe every day offshore could be this way. The Windward Passage can be somewhat notorious for being a little rougher than a day that we've had today in the Southern Bahamas. But on a 6-day trip, we're off to a good start. Like most great adventures, you don't know how your experience will change you. How hitting your breaking points and living through it anyway means those aren't breaking points anymore. How much I would miss my family.
Hi, Mom and Dad. Love you.
And it only makes me love them more. And how this journey would challenge and deepen our bond in new and indescribable ways. It might be a little hard to see because the sun's going down, obviously, but the moon is almost full. So for our first night offshore, we're so excited. It's gonna be so beautiful. I don't think the camera can really do it justice, but the water's starting to twinkle. And how the ocean sky is like nothing you've ever seen.
two systems and having a longer offshore trip. You don't always have perfect weather the whole time.
It's day 2. And it's not as calm as yesterday.
We slammed through upwind chop for 2 days through the Windward Passage.
In leaving for a trip with a new crew member or an unproven sailor, I'm definitely fully prepared to single-hand the boat. I have been for many years, and even if someone is a proven sailor, it's just so easy for someone to get sick or injured to the point where they can't take a watch.
I'm finally sitting upright for the first time today, which I guess is progress. And here's Cuba.
Coming from around Cuba. This is the Windward Passage. We passed Cuba last night, past Haiti. We're approaching Jamaica this afternoon. These banks out here, which has unexploded ordnances. Didn't realize we'd gotten here this quickly, but it's 32 feet, super clear water, and I can see the bottom. And
Kind of the logical decision would be to stop in Jamaica. The route takes you right past there, but it being times of COVID and all that is involved in that, we decided to bypass that.
We made it past the unexploded ordnance.
All the numbers still look great.
At the time, I was using Iridium satellite connection to download weather, current, and routing data through predictwind.com. However, it's amazing how fast things change, because even just since then, pretty much everyone has upgraded to Starlink, which has brought unlimited data at high speeds and access to any websites. So to be able to route offshore using all the resources and websites that you have onshore is definitely a game changer.
I haven't slept in 3 days, but you've had that.
thank you, darling. I slept a little bit. I took a bunch of naps.
15-minute intervals.
Yeah, but when you take them a bunch in a row, sleep right there. I can just sit up, put my eyes on my numbers, make sure nothing's changed, and then get another 15 minutes. So when I stack them up like that, it becomes usable sleep. So I felt great.
Jamaica. It's a lot like Cuba. It's definitely the same.
These are Atlantic white-sided dolphin here.
This is us willing the trade winds to happen. We're so close to having enough wind to sail. So close. 1 or 2 more knots.
Come on. And once they set in, it should be pretty solid, but man, what a slow build. It's really been frustrating morning.
I'm just happy to be sitting upright.
It seems like it's been a bit feast or famine out here. Eagerly waiting to get into the trade winds. Well, the wind's finally behind us, but it's just a little bit too soft to sail. We've been running our motor for a while. He's ready to stop burning diesel.
We are waiting, well, for one, for the wind to build a little bit. We came around Jamaica in a bit of a low, and the trade winds were supposed to pick up pretty much as soon as we passed Jamaica, but they've been taunting me for hours now. It's now 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was supposed to have solid 10 to 15 trade winds hours ago, but it's still just lingering around 10 knots. So we want it to get up to about 15, and if we could get it to be, our apparent wind to be 120 or further behind us, then we can combine code 0 with our Genoa pulled out on the other side and go wing on wing with the two of them, and can go pretty good speeds. Even if it's light behind us, we can catch enough of the wind with that configuration that we can do about more than half, about 3/4 of the wind speed. So yeah, if we could just get a few more knots of wind, then we are smooth sailing to Panama from here.
Doing it. Willing it to happen.
And we're not the only ones waiting for the trade winds to pick up.
Hiya. I thought he was going to land on my arm.
I thought so too.
This is what I was waiting for.
The waves got big. There's no way the camera can really capture the size or the feeling. The ocean is an extreme environment, even on a good day, because it is insurvivable to us. And I have never been more keenly aware of my soft, squishy, tender mortality. The raw power of nature is truly awesome in every sense of the word. The ocean doesn't give a shit about you. We're just tiny morsels in a world that is so much bigger. While in the trough of a big wave and seeing a wall of water coming towards you higher than the solar panels, you think, there's no way that isn't going to just swallow us up. And then, like she was born to do, Big Bear just floats up and surfs down the other side. In this environment, you're 100% reliant on your equipment, not to mention a captain who knows what the heck they're doing. The prospect of being without either of those left me with a profound perception of loneliness, unlike anything I've ever experienced. And it was equally rad, if that makes any sense. Big Bear was made for this stuff, and she performed like a finely tuned precision instrument. And it feels like Big Bear is just as alive as you or me.
Feeling like these seas are annoying as shit. It makes it very difficult to find the right configuration. It's the proper amount of sail for the amount of wind that we have is just upsetting the rudders. It's making the steering very difficult. The waves are just kicking her butt end out from under her. So, a little tricky conditions to configure for. Currently motor sailing with a head sail only. It seems like any bit of main that we put up when we get on the crest of some of the big waves and get hit by a gust, it just wants to kind of pull the back end out from under us. So, yeah, we're turning our course a little more downwind, try and ride with the waves, but they're big enough that they still want to kind of overtake you and make it tough on the steering. So 4 to 5 meter range. Pretty big. As soon as you get out of the 2 to 3 meter range, then you're paying attention to them. More than the size, is they're a bit sloppy, not really even somewhat close together for this size. And yeah, it's just not easy to configure the boat.
This was before things got complicated.
Ryan's working on our centerboard line. You see the frayed end of that. It came loose from under the boat.
Our line that locks the centerboard down. I never use it, similarly to how I never keep the outboard propeller locked down so that if you ever hit something, it would pop up. It routes up to the cockpit through the centerboard trunk, and there's a knot in the end of it, so it should never be able to go anywhere. So somehow the knot wiggled its way out, and the line dragged itself through the force of, we've been pounding through wind and waves for days now, 30 something.
7 days. This is day 7.
Yeah, so 7 days of rough and some very rough. So I guess the forces of that were just trying to pull it down. I don't know how the knot came out of the end of it. I don't know what idiot tied that knot. We're gonna have to track him down somehow. Stuck the GoPro on the pole cam down below that we're sure that there is no prop. So got to decide if maybe the screw just backed itself off and the prop just came off cleanly and we can put our spare prop on. But there's a good chance that the hole got stripped or the splines got stripped as the old prop tore its way off. So we've decided that it's not safe for me to get in the water while we're out here. The waves are still pretty big. It's still big in terms of trying to be under the boat working. So we're gonna sail through the night, try and get there right at sunrise, and if it's real calm there, maybe anchor outside the seawall or just inside the seawall and maybe try and get in and see what the deal is, or use our tender to tow us into the anchorage and drop the anchor, or call the marina and maybe have them tow us in. Although I'd kind of rather dive and get an idea of what's going on before we get into the marina.
There's a lot of things to be grateful for. The weather was way worse a couple days ago, up until really like last night.
Yeah.
And like Brian was just saying, transmissions are a lot more expensive than propellers. But I think Brian and I are both ready to be in Panama, right?
Yeah. This trip was supposed to be over like this morning.
Yeah. Also good news that we're still out here and not in the major shipping zones or finding out when we're trying to get up to the dock or something like that.
Yeah. The alternative, if the wind didn't die and get all fluky out here, was that I was going to show up, right up into the front of the shipping lanes. This traffic separation zone in front of the Panama Canal was crazy. So we would have basically showed up there expecting to have our engine ready, and maybe been in a precarious situation when we found out that we didn't have it. It would have been dark. We were planning on pulling in the dark tonight. So yeah, this is way better that we're going to do it on our own terms. We're going to totally go around the traffic zone. Definitely could be much worse. Could always be much worse.
We ended up changing our plans, mainly due to a check of the local wind forecast along the coast, which showed decent steady winds through the night, but also showed a dead zone of wind forming off the coast as day breaks. I didn't want to get caught in a busy shipping lane with no wind and no engine, so we ended up sailing just south of Cologne to a harbor named Portobello, where we were able to use the wind to sail as close as we could into the harbor, and then use our dinghy for the last little bit to get into where we could anchor, and the next day I could use the nice calm and clear water to see if I could fit a replacement prop.
Good morning, guys. It's our first morning in Panama, and it's a really exciting time because
we slept for the first time in 8 days.
And not only did we have a spare prop, but this morning, Brian even found the hardware for it. So we've got about as good of chances as we can get. And we came into this beautiful harbor last night in the dark under the moonlight, and it was so spooky and tropical and mystical, and a lot of local boats, people using hand fishing lines. It just has such a cool vibe. And the water is crystal clear and warm.
All right, you want to fire me up?
Yeah, you ready?
Yep. Big fingers crossed.
To do this repair, I'm using a 12-volt electric hookah, which is super convenient to have on board for any kind of repairs, inspection, or hull cleaning.
We got lucky.
Yeah, we're getting lucky and being unlucky. I mean, about the unluckiest thing I could think is to lose your prop offshore. Realize it when you're coming into one of the busiest ports maybe on the planet, the entrance to the Panama Canal. But in that happening, we may have gotten really lucky in that it may have somehow fucking backed the bolt out really cleanly and slid the prop off real cleanly, because the splines and the threads on the bolt hole at the end, at least from looking, look fine. You don't know until you get the threads in there, but so far it looks like maybe we got real lucky and being unlucky.
We're about to find out.
Ready to hand me our first piece here?
Sure am.
There's a slight chance that bolt didn't go in all the way. We typically run a folding propeller by Flexifold. However, I'm fitting a fixed blade propeller here because that's what we carry on board as our spare prop.
Really glad we didn't do this in the middle of the ocean yesterday. Even though it's kind of an unfortunate situation and a loss. You know, the propeller that we lost was expensive, but now we're in this beautiful harbor and we get to stay and explore. Llegamos en Panama!
After crossing the Caribbean Sea, it felt so good to know that that leg of the journey was safely completed and to have some basic comforts like sleeping through the night and stretching our legs. And I was blown away by the smells. They do a lot of brush burning in Central America, and I have never smelled earth more pungently than after being offshore for 8 days. The Caribbean Sea crossing was a huge milestone in our journey, and we were ready to head towards the Panama Canal. To say this marine metropolis is busy is an understatement. We headed to Shelter Bay Marina in Cologne to rest and regroup, and we can't say enough good things about it. Join us in the next video to see us traverse the canal and enter the Pacific for the first time. And if you like what you see so far, please consider subscribing to the channel. And thanks for being a part of the journey so far.